This program is powered by AIM Employers Association and Ogletree Deacons, a Feature Group USA production.
Hello, everybody. I'm Phil Brandt, President and CEO of AIM Employers Association. Today is September 11th. Always a wonderful day for us to honor the lives of the people and family that were affected and the change that occurred across the world that will live with us forever. Remembering the courage of the first responders and an extraordinary bravery that they projected as they went rushing in as everyone came running out. But today's story is a little bit bigger than that. It's also on the heels of some tragic events that have occurred in the last week with school shootings and a Charlie Kirk assassination, as well as tragedies on the train as it relates to the Ukraine refugee and so on. There are a lot of things happening in our country today, and we as leaders have to understand how does that affect the workplace. On top of that, we have other things happening such as AI and legal updates from Burt Garland on Lawyer on the Clock. So we're about to get fired up. Strap in and welcome to This Week at Work.
Welcome to This Week at Work, the only show to pack workplace news, practical HR solutions, and timely insights into every 30-minute episode. From the latest rulings in the courtroom to the strategies unfolding in the boardroom, and from real conversations taking place on the front lines to spotlighting what similar companies are doing about the challenges they face, This Week at Work brings you the conversations that matter most to HR professionals and business leaders like you. Brought to you by AIM Employers Association and Ogletree Deacons, live every Thursday morning. This is your opportunity to connect with their experts and ask your burning questions. So what's keeping you up at night? Let's face it together now on This Week at Work.
All right. Good morning, Burt. I would love to be excited and enthusiastic and pumped up about this program. And I know we're going to talk about AI and Singularity and some of the things that are in front of us on that topic. And we got Lawyer on the Clock. But it would not be responsible for us not to acknowledge some of the events that are happening in the world, but most importantly, right here at home in the United States. And I'm really referring to remembering 9/11, which, is a day we say we will never forget. So anytime on this day, it's a great time for us to reflect. And we all can reflect and remember where we were on those days and what we were doing. But yesterday was also a tragic day with Charlie Kirk, what they're calling assassination. I don't know a better name at this moment for that. It was tragic. It was all over social media. I think it goes to show that mainstream media just does not meet the demands of people today with social media. It's important to be in tune. We also have, a school shooting that occurred yesterday. It's not getting a lot of news. We had that tragedy on the train with the Ukraine lady and the mentally ill person that attacked her randomly. And these are the topics that people are talking about at work, right? This is what my workplace is talking about. I'm talking about it, you and I, and people are listening to it. And so what I want to do is kind of bring that back together and talk about what's the responsibility of a leader when we have these topics. And it's not an easy topic, particularly when you put in we can all talk about 9/11, where we were attacked by an outside organization attacking our country. But it's a little different when the attacks occur within our country, and then it starts to create political divide. And not to be a political conversation, but then people start sharing their opinions a little bit more strongly. And we want to have conversations at work that allow people to understand and then move forward. So when I think about these, Burt, they are topics that I'm having with business leaders just because they're timely. I don't know if they're creeping into your conversations or not. I just want to pause and hear some of your thoughts on it.
Yeah, yesterday was certainly quite interesting. I was tied up in the last day of a lengthy legal proceeding and didn't get home last night until about 9:30. And when I got home, I checked my text messages from the day and I had a lot of friends who had texted me about what took place yesterday with Charlie Kirk, and frankly, a lot of coworkers who
Yeah.
texted me. Just local, attorneys I work with in the St. Louis office. Four of them separately each texted me, which I thought was really unusual. My first response to one of them was a bunch of question marks because I hadn't checked the news yet, and then I had checked the news and saw what happened. And it kind of to bring this full circle, Phil, it amazes me. I mean, today's 9/11, like you said, and I just think of 24 years ago, literally about close to this time in the
Okay.
morning, 24 years ago, maybe about 45 minutes from now, 24 years ago, and what happened. And I do have to say that for better or for worse, right after 9/11 and the aftermath, I hadn't seen unity in this country like I saw at that time, probably since the 1980 Olympics with the Miracle on Ice. It was 1980, wasn't it, or was it 84? I think 80
Yeah.
or 84.
84, I think. Yeah.
84, thank you. And that was the last time I had kind of seen unity in this country at its peak. And I do think that Americans did really rally around each other and took this as a collective attack. And I look at how far that's disintegrated in the last 24 years. The sort of the lack of pride and the vitriol that takes place, and it kind of boils down to the fact that in this country, I'm not saying in other countries because they're not the United States, but in this country, people's political affiliations should never ever lead to death. I mean, it's just tragic what's happened, and we just look at how far things have spiraled downward since the unity in the aftermath of 9/11.
Yeah, yeah. And I think when we bring that back home, and the people who follow our shows are business leaders, and I think it comes back to how do we create a safe and responsible conversation at work? Because people, we can't. It's not the world my father grew up in, where you don't talk about those things outside of the dinner table. They're talked about now in every corner of the United States, openly, freely, and then they become debate, then they become argument, and then arguments turn into actions. And I think as employers, often what is difficult for them is how do we create a safe conversation at work, or how far do we allow the conversation at work to go? Can I control it? Should I try to control it? These are the things that employers, I think, deal with, because what they want to do is make their business successful. And they realize that, the human beings in their business are, emotional, and we're divided often. And these stories are always turned back to political. I mean, if
Yes.
I even take the tragedy of the Ukraine lady on the train, and this has become a black-white
Yes.
story. It's become an international story of refugee here trying to better their lives, chasing the American dream. It's become a mental illness story. It's reverse discrimination if it would have occurred the other way. All these things are working their way into the workplace, and people have very strong opinions about it. And we've grown past the environment where we can share an opinion respectfully and accept the other person's point of view as their point of view, and it doesn't have to lead to a divide between us. And that gets me back to Charlie Kirk, because that's, in the essence, I think what made Charlie a little bit unique was, he didn't argue at, scream at, demean people. He argued positions of point with facts and data that you either did or didn't agree with, but it wasn't never a violent, and it was never it wasn't intended to be disrespectful, I don't believe. So for employers in the workplace, we want to create that environment. So as I'm being asked, I'm saying, look, it's important that we and workplaces understand how to have effective communications, and it upon our leaders to lead, and recognizing that our leaders don't inherently know how to do that. If they haven't been trained and taught to do that, they don't know how to do it. And I sometimes get a little disappointed in employers that don't make that investment in their leaders. It's about change management in the workplace. It's about the policies and cultures that we create that allow people to lean on respecting each other versus we don't talk about it at all, and then it creates divide in our workplace. And we're just more divided than ever. And maybe on 9/11 is the best time for us to pause and just think about ourselves as leaders, and what are you projecting as a leader by the way that you address this or not? Because as a leader, you have an opinion. You fall somewhere on the spectrum from left to right, and you're projecting a point of view or ignoring a point of view by your actions, and those are important, very important factors that could help your workplace be more effective. And that's what we're really coming down to. So I ask all leaders today, as we reflect on 9/11 and current events, to think about what are you doing to make the people, the human beings in your workplace better understood, have better skills to deal with these types of issues, and how does your workplace allow you to address these issues, hear the issues, and move forward and stay focused on the objective at hand. And it doesn't start with we ignore it. If you're one of those leaders, I'm sorry, I just think your leadership style is ineffective if we ignore it. It has to be talked about.
Yeah, I do think I mean, so you say it has to be talked about. It is going to be talked about. And
Great point.
so ignoring it really, if you try to stick your head in the sand when people are talking about it, I think that's going to degenerate into workplace conflict. And so
Right.
that's not good for anyone. And the way as I think about this issue, the senseless killing, the school shootings, the Charlie Kirk assassination, and the stabbing, just the stabbing on the train. The way I look at it is eventually the discussion degenerates into a battle over gun control, notwithstanding the fact that the issue on the train was not a gun, but it degenerates into gun control and racial issues versus politics. And I think trying to bring the conversation back to maybe trying to find common ground among people that there's a lack of kind of knowing right from wrong, and the problem is bigger. It's societal, and trying to emulate in the workplace that we as a company, we as management, we know right from wrong. And we're going to try to emphasize that. We're going to try to lead from the moral high ground. We're not going to be making random decisions at work. We're not going to be making decisions that aren't transparent. We're gonna have good communication with our employees. We're not going to be discriminating. We're not going to be harassing in the workplace. We're gonna treat people fairly because we know right from wrong. We have that moral high ground, and I think we want to try to emulate sort of that responsibility, or re-emphasize that responsibility from us as leaders, that we know right from wrong. We have a good moral compass. We're going to behave that way in the workplace. And we want our employees to do the same thing. I think with the conversations taking place, I think if you could get your employees, if you can get talking about things that we agree in common, which most of us do agree on, and that is killing is wrong. And if you have people in the workplace who don't think that killing is wrong and they try to justify the killings that have been taking place in the United States, you may have a bigger issue, a mental health issue with the employee if they can't commit to understanding that killing is wrong. And so I think we kind of start from where we can find common ground and then move on from there.
I I would agree, and I think the other underlying element to the list that you gave, which I'm like, yes, I agree with everything that you just said, is it's really about creating a sense of pride and belonging at work, and I think for far too long we've lost that in many ways. I mean, I love working at AIM. I love the people I work with and the things that I do. And I've really had, for the most part, a lot of pride with most, if not all of my employers in ways that I mean, I was really proud to work for my employer and I didn't want anything to, you know, diminish their brand or their success in any way. Um, and when I see some of the data and the information that we get from employers that are along their journey to create that culture and sense of pride, it's a little bit scary sometimes to see that not all employers have that, right? I mean, it's not all employers have employees that are proud of where they work and they sabotage their workplace, they steal from the workplace. Not just a person, but like there's theft, there's sabotage, there's tardiness, there's absenteeism, there's high turnover rates. All these things that take away from really a sense of belonging. Where do I belong? Because when I belong somewhere and I have a sense of pride of where I belong, then I'm not going to bring harm into my workplace. I'm not going to bring that same aggression to work, to my coworkers, towards my management. And I'm going to work hard and stay focused on, again, what business owners want, and that is productivity and a good product and customer service and all of those other elements that we really consume our time with. And so I just, reminding leaders that if you're not working on your culture as a leader, right? Many of the other things we do as a leader will be replaced by AI, which is the topic for today. So if I can bring it right back into this, because the one thing that they do talk about that AI won't replace is that strategic cultural leadership. But it will replace the task. It will replace processing. It will replace, the need for humans to do, I don't want to call it remedial, but repetitive activities, whether
Routine,
they're routine
routine,
activities.
mundane.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it is interesting, to see that if that's where we're at and how good are you at what we should be doing as it relates to culture and that sense of belonging. And when we look in that mirror and we say, well, what have you done in the last 6 months for that? I know not a lot of leaders can make a long list. And maybe our focus starts from within our businesses at that point. But all right, I don't want us to get too far off on this, and I know we're only going to be another 10 minutes here, Bert. And I know
AI may have to wait another week, Phil.
I know it's a topic that you want to
Yeah.
talk about, and you're along your journey, and I'm so proud of your evolution in this. But we're going to have to use that as a teaser. I do want to get to Lawyer on the Clock, one of our favorite segments for our listeners. So, Nick, can you cue up Lawyer on the Clock?
I can. I'm going to go ahead and there is a comment that we had on YouTube that maybe we should just bring up, and it was LaRonda said, I feel bad about what happened to Charlie Kirk. I wasn't a fan, but he was still a human being. Our country is supposed to be united, but today America is considered the divided states of America. So just wanted to include that. We had some thoughts from a viewer there.
You know,
No, that's
I think LaRonda said it very well. I mean, again, looking at finding common ground, and this one should be easy. Killing is wrong, and
period.
if
No
we
matter who you are, where you are, it's wrong.
it is. It's wrong. And you know, I think LaRonda's comment is spot on that we need to start from that basic. I mean, not even making it a religious issue, but you know, going back to some of the Ten Commandments, you don't even have to take them as a religious commandments. They're still good rules to live by, whether you're religious or not. And you know,
Yeah.
one of those is thou shalt not kill. And if we can sort of start with that common ground there, which most people, I would venture to say 99% plus of the population would agree with,
Yeah.
you know, then we can start maybe building some consensus, some unity, some pride, and maybe try to stop some of this.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's such a great comment. We appreciate that one. Thank you, Nick, for bringing that up. And you know, when I think about the divided states of America in a way, I mean, that's an impactful statement. And it is so divided today politically, and in you know, which gets down to individuals. But you know, I'm gonna, you know, that starts with me and my view and my comments and actions in the world, um, and then it moves from there to my family, to my workplace, and I'm gonna do my part in trying to be better in that space and more conscious with it. So thanks for that comment. Appreciate that.
All right,
All right,
so
are
we
you
are
ready to
ready
put
for
Lawyer
Lawyer
on the clock?
Let's do it.
Do it.
Curious about a case that could wreck your workplace? Lucky for you, we have a lawyer on the clock.
So Burt, we're
So
gonna get true 7 minutes out of you today, or 6 minutes.
6 minutes exactly. Well, it may end up taking just one development then, and you know, we've talked a lot on this program about the case of Muldrow versus the city of St. Louis, and
Yeah.
you know, I have been really interested in this case, really following this case because it comes out of our own city of St. Louis here, comes out of our own U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of Missouri, and then it comes out of the Eighth Circuit Court of Appeals, and then all the way up to the United States Supreme Court last year. And the cases, so just to refresh everybody's recollections, Muldrow, in Muldrow, the U.S. Supreme Court rejected a heightened standard of what was called significant material or serious harm used by many of the federal circuit courts when deciding whether an employee has suffered some sort of adverse action in the workplace based on a protected status. And in Muldrow, the Supreme Court held that an employment action is adverse if the plaintiff experienced, quote, some harm respecting an identifiable term or condition of employment. That's end quote. That is really, really broad. And that
Some
means,
harm.
yeah, that means that the action must leave the employee worse off, but not necessarily, quote, need not have left the employee significantly worse off. Okay. And so that becomes a really hard standard for us to get our hands around. And since the decision of Muldrow about this, I think it was about this time last year, the cases from the lower courts are now starting to filter out. And Muldrow was a Title VII case. It was a race case. And just in the last week, a couple weeks here, the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals, in the case of Shear versus Sisters of Charity, applied the same Muldrow analysis to an ADA claim. So Americans with Disabilities Act. And this is
Okay.
absolutely foreseeable that this would happen. Again, Muldrow was a Title VII case, but it's foreseeable that this same analysis would be applied in an ADA case. And in this particular case, the plaintiff refused to sign a counseling compliance form, and then her employer terminated her for failing to sign the counseling compliance form. The federal judge dismissed her ADA claim under the 10th Circuit's long-standing quote-unquote significant change standard, which required proof of a major alteration in the plaintiff's employment status. But on appeal, the 10th Circuit revived the case in light of Muldrow and said that the plaintiff in the case only needed to prove some harm, not material or significant harm. And in this case, the employee in back in 2019, as supervisors were preparing her performance improvement plan to address certain concerns in her workplace, including multiple instances of failing to meet productivity standards, coworkers also had reported worries about her mental well-being. And so in response, the plaintiff or the defendant in the case, the company revised its PIP to require her to participate in its EAP for counseling. The court said that her refusal to sign, or the appeals court said her refusal to sign that PIP that required the EAP's disclosure form, that was some harm to her. And it's up to a jury to decide whether or not that constitutes disability discrimination. And so this leaves employers really in a precarious position. I mean, we know what the law is now because the Supreme Court has settled on it, but trying to figure out what the boundaries are of quote unquote some harm, that's going to be difficult. And it's going to make it harder for employers to get out of cases early on either a dismissal or more likely a summary judgment motion. And I think a lot more cases are going to go to the jury for the jury to decide whether the employee suffered some harm.
Maybe I'm confusing my thoughts here, Burt, which is, and you'll laugh and go, yeah, it's not unusual for you, Phil, right?
Yeah, never happened to you.
Yeah. But so I'm just thinking about what you just said, and my mind is racing with what's just happening, right? And here the employer says, look, we want you to get some counseling. We want you to be better at work so that you can be effective and we can move on. In the basic terms, right? Assuming everything is done with the right intent. And now I think about, I've done that. I've said to employees over the years, look, you have to go and meet with a counselor and we need to know that you're okay. In whatever term that is, the same way we've said you have to go meet with a physician and get a release to know that you're okay. And whatever we're talking about. And when we talk about mental illness, and we think about recent events that we just spent so much time talking about, and we say, hey, somebody doesn't quite seem okay, whatever that means, okay. And I don't have the skills and the talents to make that assessment. So I want you to do that. Please go see EAP. We pay for it. It's covered. And the person chooses not to sign, not to do. And we say, hey, look, it's just too big of a risk to have you come in here. It really is putting employers in a tough spot here.
It really does. And, without having read the underlying decisions in the case or the motions in the case, I have to believe that, if the employee's coworkers were coming to the employer expressing concerns about the employee's mental well-being, maybe, just maybe in this case, the employer did not pursue what is in the law.
The interactive process.
Well, it's not necessarily the interactive process, but there is a direct threat component to these laws where and the EEOC doesn't like this, and but it is actually part of the law. And that is when somebody presents, especially in the disability realm, a direct threat to their own health and safety, the health and safety of their coworkers, or really the health and safety of the public at large, the employer has some additional rights. And it may be, just maybe, the employer wasn't going down the right path here. And there's an old saying in the law that bad facts make bad law. And maybe this is one of those cases. I'd need to dig into it a little bit further, but I wonder what the 10th Circuit would have done with this if they had pursued the direct threat aspect of this case. If employees, coworkers were concerned enough to bring to the attention of the employer that this employee was suffering from some sort of mental health issue, I wonder if there was a component there that they could have pursued. But I think
and the spectrum is huge,
It is.
Yeah,
And
it could be any of it, but I just couldn't help but think sometimes when we do worry about someone at work who is suffering and we're worried they may do something really bad versus they're just slow productivity. Two different, very different things there. Yeah.
Very much so. But yeah, I think that you're so I don't think you were confusing your thoughts at all. I think you're spot on, Phil, that we kind of look at like employment actions that we typically would view as low risk. We want to take a closer look at those things. Normally, we would say, look, if it affected their pay, their job title, their primary or essential functions of their position, their essential terms and conditions of employment, that it's pretty easy to determine if there's an adverse employment action. Losing a job, that's the ultimate adverse employment action. We know that when we see it. But now things that might be tied to employee assistance programs, or maybe I could even see it in a wellness program, if there are requirements to do those things, and maybe even requirements to participate or sign off on a performance improvement plan, those things might be deemed adverse. And so you're spot on that this makes it really, really difficult for employers right now as we sort of digest Muldrow and watch these cases filter through the court system to find out where the guardrails are on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Burt, that's why we call it This Week at Work, because our topic never made it to the docket because we're addressing the issues that are arising this week. So we'll get back on agenda next week. I know you got an important court case to get off to and do some good for us. I appreciate that. We'll be back here next week. Don't forget to click and download. What is it called, Nick? I'm sorry.
We call it the rap sheet. It's Ready, Aim, Fire, but it's
we
may take that off because we haven't given you the information yet. So maybe next week we'll have that available. This week, just go hug it
off right now.
This week, just go hug the people you love.
All right. That's a good way to end the program. Until then, go out and be good to somebody and give them that hug. We'll be back next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you once again for tuning in to This Week at Work. If you enjoy the show, please like it, share it, and make sure it's on your calendar every week. Ask your burning questions anytime and let us know what topics you'd like us to cover. Just go to hrAsk.org. And be sure to leave a review wherever you catch our show to help other HR pros find us as well. We'll see you next week when we discuss what's happening this week at work.